I wanted to make this a separate video outside of my review for the episode because this is kind of a whole topic of its own, really. So the latest episode of The Mandalorian, obviously, is the season 3 premiere, and we were all wondering what they were going to do with Cara Dune and Gina Carano because obviously Lucasfilm unjustly fired her 2 years ago. So we are going to have the big absence of Cara Dune, and everyone wondering what are they going to do with the character. There's lots of options they could have gone with, and the premiere of season 3 gave us our answer. It literally gave us our answer of what they're going to do with this character, and I kind of want to give my thoughts on it because first of all, I hate the whole situation. This situation should have never even happened to begin with. She should still be with Star Wars ultimately. In a normal world, she would be, but unfortunately, we are in this sick, twisted, cancel culture, leftist run culture, and the mob on Twitter got her fired. It sounds so ridiculous, but it is unfortunately what Lucasfilm and Disney is. So Gina Carano is obviously not on The Mandalorian anymore. Honestly, overall, it's probably the best for her. But I do think she would love to be playing the character still, and I would still love to see her on the show, of course. But she's not on the show anymore, and they were obviously going to have to address it in some way. Now, I was going into the premiere, I was kind of wondering if I was on the fence of they were either going to completely ignore it or they were going to address it kind of the way they did in the premiere. So there were a lot of options. One option could be that Cara Dune could be killed off screen. They just mention it real quick that, oh, she didn't make it back and everything like that. That's what all the crazy leftists on Twitter wanted to happen. Didn't happen. Sorry, guys. They could have also recast her, which I don't think they would have done because well, first of all, I thought it was weird that Lucasfilm completely canned all Cara Dune merch and figures and everything right away. It spoke to me like they wanted to erase the character, so I don't think the character was just going to be around at all. So I don't think they were going to recast suddenly because I think that would even cause a bigger uproar than even her getting fired and taken off. Recasting is probably the worst nightmare probably for a lot of people who like the character of Cara Dune. It would have just been so awful to watch. It really would have been. So recasting, killing the character off, or just ignoring her, or doing what they did, and that is kind of sending her off, saying she's off on some sort of mission and she's off doing her own thing now, and that is exactly what they did in this latest episode. So we have this quick conversation. It's literally a quick little mention here. Grief Karga is mentioning how they need a marshal on Navarro, and obviously Cara Dune was the marshal on Navarro. And then Mando is like, what about Marshal Dune? She should be around, and she should be around, but she's not. So what did they do? Well, Grief Karga mentions that after she brought in Moff Gideon, she was recruited to Special Forces for the New Republic. And you know what? Despite the entire thing, I hate the whole situation. I hate what they did to Gina Carano. I hate it. I hate what they did. She should be on this show still. I cannot say it enough. And I know a lot of people are irritated with Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, especially of how they handled the Cara Dune Gina situation. I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni did the best possible thing they could have done to write off the character without pissing off a ton of people. There are a massive amount of fans who loved Gina Carano as Cara Dune. I am one of them, and I was very curious to see how they would get rid of the character, and there was some ones in there, some options that would have really, really pissed me off. And I think they realized that there is a lot of people who really liked Cara Dune, and there's also a lot of people who want to see the worst happen. And I think they came to a middle ground here where it's like, okay, this is where the character was kind of going to begin with. She really wanted to bring in Moff Gideon. There was the whole thing in the season 2 finale even. She really wanted to bring in Moff Gideon to the New Republic, and she did. And it makes sense for the character, and they sent her off to Special Forces to do whatever she's going to do for the New Republic. So that being said, I think there's less uproar than there would be for the character of Cara Dune because now they made it so there's not really going to be a recast because she's not really going to be around to begin with. They're not killing her off. They clearly made it clear that they are not going to kill the character off. But now she is still part of the galaxy and she's still relevant technically somewhere. And now this is just a hypothetical thing of like, wow, what if the universe just aligns like in perfect ways and suddenly everything works out insanely perfectly and everything is like good again, which that is not going to happen, probably not anytime soon, and it'd be way too late for this. But let's just say things suddenly get better at Lucasfilm and Disney. I know it's a really wild thought, but let's just pretend for a moment. Maybe they'd bring in Cara Dune and Gina Carano again, maybe one day. That possibility is still there. Now, I don't think they'll ever bring back Gina Carano because they're now held hostage by the Twitter mob. But I am just saying they technically did leave the door open for that character to return one day. It doesn't have to be in The Mandalorian. She can come back. She could come back in some other future project, especially if you're going to explore more New Republic stuff. She can come back. I'm just saying she can come back. And I think that is I think they did the best that they could. I can't say enough that I really hate what happened, and I think she should be on the show, and I despise what Lucasfilm and Disney did. Always will, and will always be on my mind watching this show going forward, and any Star Wars from them going forward. Even if I like it or not, it's still on my mind. There's something on my mind. I can't get over it. No matter what I watch anymore from them. I can't get over it. But I think what John and Dave did and what they were handed in telling the story for, going forward with this, having to get rid of the character or just send her off and then continue the Mando story, I think they did the best possible thing. You can hate Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni. You might not like the story they're telling or whatnot. That's fine, whatever. I don't like how they handled the whole Gina situation. I don't like how they're avoiding answering questions about it. But I think in the story itself, I'm just talking about the story, I think they did the best thing that they possibly could have done with this character, considering the awful situation that they put the character into. And I think they did a good job. It's unfortunate what situation we are now in, but going forward for The Mandalorian itself, it's not a glaring problem of like suddenly they killed her off or she's recast and there's some new lady there playing the character. It's not some glaring thing that's always going to be so obvious and frustrating to look at in the show. The show's just going to move forward and it's just not really going to address it probably anymore. And that is the best thing for the show, considering there are so many people who liked that character, and if they did any big drastic changes or kill it off, it would just probably damage the fan base again. And I don't think they want to do that, and they did the best possible solution for that. So I just kind of wanted to bring it up in a whole video of itself because I know I mentioned it in my review, but The Mandalorian has now addressed the Cara Dune character's situation. She has been sent to special forces for capturing Moff Gideon. Makes sense, and it kind of works into Moff Gideon's story that we'll probably see later in this season. But unfortunately, Gina Carano is no longer on the show. It is extremely unfortunate, and I wish her the best. And we'll see where the series goes here. I did like the first episode of season 3, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, they addressed it, and that's my thoughts.